This is why many Australians go barefoot to stores. They don't wear shoes and walk barefoot whenever they feel so. It is so common in Australia that one might get a shock when they see such a scenario. Not only do they walk barefoot on the beach, but they even visit stores without wearing shoes. But what is the mysterious reason, and why do people walk barefoot in Australia? Australia, with its rich and unique culture, caught the world's interest. Like any other nation, Australia has a unique collection of cultural practices that distinguish it apart. Among these peculiarities, Australians' tendency to go barefoot has drawn notice as one especially strange practice. Not only confined to the beach, this habit has crept into other aspects of everyday life, such as supermarket shopping and even school visits. Australians dress well, yet they appear to dislike shoes very much. To comprehend this cultural phenomenon, one must first investigate the origins of Australian society. It's no longer just a question of comfort or taste. Being barefoot has become intrinsic to the character of Australia. Going barefoot has evolved into a characteristic that identifies Australia, while being viewed by some as one of the weirdest and unexplainable customs of the country. While this may appear like a common behavior to the typical Australian, it begs the issue of how deeply rooted Australians are in their nation. Since wearing shoes in public places is the standard elsewhere, the concept of going barefoot might be confusing to visitors to Australia. It makes one wonder if Australians really have such a strong bond with their country that they are prepared to part with the shoe that stands between their feet and the earth. For Australians, feet have evolved from being viewed as a private and delicate bodily part to a sign of cultural expression. Humans have historically spent much of their time walking barefoot. Shoes were first developed about 40,000 years ago. Why then have the Australians rejected this evolutionary convenience? Australia's clever immigration attraction marketing is the solution. Australia projected an image of a sun-drenched paradise where being barefoot was a privilege and a symbol of leaving the Northern Hemisphere behind in its quest of laborers and residents. This established the groundwork for a culture that valued a relaxed way of life in addition to embracing the land. Except for places with strict clothing standards, Australians have elevated this cultural tendency to unprecedented levels, making it okay to go barefoot in practically every public area. Because of the pleasant environment, Australians tend to be laid back, which is reflected in the country's informal clothing code. Some contend, nevertheless, that this informality has crossed the line into sloppiness, particularly in settings where shoes are seen to be more suitable. There are boundaries even if going barefoot is often accepted. There are several locations that need appropriate footwear, including restaurants, theaters, libraries, and airplanes. However, via a variety of hobbies such as earthing, barefoot bowling, barefoot water ski jumping, and even in the field of children's entertainment with the internationally famous Wiggles, Australian feet have found a position on the worldwide stage. The fact that the Australian-born creator of the barefoot movement, which advocates for the advantages of going barefoot, is also an indication of the phenomenon's widespread influence. There is a growing body of evidence supporting the benefits of barefoot running, including increased muscle activation, better alignment, and increased power production. With more than 200,000 nerve endings, the human foot gains from the feedback it receives when it is not restricted by shoes. A rising corpus of studies on the health advantages of going barefoot is supporting this return to a more natural way of living, which is gaining favor internationally. But it's a myth that all Australians go barefoot on a regular basis. 90% of people in Australia live in big cities, making it a highly urbanized culture. Although it's not unheard of in cities, wearing bare feet is more frequent around parks, beaches, and in all locations. Australia's urban lifestyle is characterized by a trade-off between work and leisure, with the latter being more closely linked to being outside and being barefoot. In Australia, the beach and the bush are still seen as fantasies despite the country's growing urbanization. These symbols, which deviate from the more inflexible customs of the original British colonial culture, stand for a yearning for independence and relaxation. A decision to forego shoes and adopt a carefree demeanor, going barefoot has come to represent freedom and a connection to the earth in this leisure culture. In Australia, wearing bare feet is a cultural statement made by many, regardless of their personal stance on the topic. It represents an easygoing attitude, a bond with the natural world, and an appreciation of the distinctive way of life that Australia has to offer. Therefore, don't be shocked if you witness someone in Australia the next time enjoying the sensation of barefoot on the ground and kicking off their shoes with confidence. It's simply another way Australians exhibit their own cultural identity.